So there was an attack on the German people last night. This attack was completely avoidable if not for the deliberate actions of the politicians and the media who supported mass migration and the failed project and experiment. There's at least 5 dead, with over 200 people injured who will be in hospital right now. There'll be people who will not spend their Christmas Day. You know, there's a term that often goes around. I often find it kind of cringe or embarrassing. And they'd be like, all I want for Christmas is remigration, all I want for Christmas is mass deportations. But there will be children who may have lost their parents, or their parents will be in hospital, and they will go and open their presents on Christmas Day, the 25th of December, from their mother or their father. And they would trade those presents all away in an instant if they could just have their loved one back in the home to celebrate Christmas with them. But they will not have that because some man had to go and drive into a Christmas market, into hundreds of people, 400 meters down, it said. And why did this have to happen? Because we don't have to live like this. When I say we, I mean us too in Britain, because mass immigration, whilst we didn't have this specific attack, mass immigration and terror incidents happen all over Europe, well, specifically Western Europe, where they allow mass immigration. So if you have any contentions with the causes of our terrorism, it's quite clear. It's very, very clear. This doesn't happen in Poland. This doesn't happen in Hungary, does it? Now, there's other Eastern European countries who they have their weaknesses, but they don't have terrorism. I was going to say Islamic, and then I realised he was not a Muslim, actually. He was just a nutter. He was just a man who has no regard for human life and will commit terrorism if it means he can achieve his political goals. So, to a lot of people's eyes, the civic nationalists, the civnats, on the right, the populist right, reform, so on. To them, the man who committed this attack would be the perfect immigrant. They wouldn't mind being replaced by these guys. Because, let's look at it, he wasn't an Islamist. In fact, he was an ex-Muslim who hated Islam. Apparently he's done this attack because he hates Islam so much and hates the German people for allowing their country to be Islamized, because he apparently fled political persecution in Saudi Arabia. He was even on the BBC, which makes it the second terrorist incident in Europe this year from an individual who's appeared on the BBC. Do you know anyone who's appeared on the BBC? Because I don't. So it's just a strange coincidence. I don't know, I mean, I'm not going to suggest anything because I don't even know how that would all work. But it's a strange coincidence that should be mentioned. So, he was a doctor. He was a legal migrant. He'd integrated, he hated Islam. He wanted to stop Germany from becoming Islamized. So, to a lot of these right-wing populists, he would have been perfect. Integrated, with German values, so the rest of it. Yet he was an absolute nutter who hates people and wants to kill them all. So perhaps we need to think about, we need to really ask the big question, what matters? Is it Islam, which is the common culprit, to be fair? It often is Islam. But the real common denominator is ethnicity. People who are absolutely out of their minds and don't mind killing people because they have no regard for human life. It's that simple. And all you have to do is not be so motivated and not be so desperate to ethnically replace the native people of the country. All you have to do is have that not be your number one priority in a country, and you would all of a sudden not have these terrorist incidents. Because it's not like the people just suddenly turn up. No, this is a process. It's all chosen. It's done through policy. Oh, I didn't set a cap on immigration. Whoops, all of a sudden I'm 70% of the population. Now, that's deliberate. If you see that happening and don't do anything, don't have any sort of course of measure, corrective action to do that, then yes, you're actively supporting the demographic replacement of your people. And why would you do that? Because this wouldn't have happened. Terrorism wouldn't have happened in Britain, the Manchester bombing, the Southport stabbing, and in Germany, now this Christmas market attack. None of this would have happened if politicians just weren't so, I don't know the word, just weren't so interested in replacing their own people. Isn't that so strange? It is so bizarre. All of this is avoidable. None of this has to happen. And I know the media is constantly warning people about, fascism is rising. Well, fascism, or what they call fascism, and rightism, has been prominent in Britain and in Europe for hundreds of years. It's just now that we're seeing a radical form of it, not a more extreme form of it, but a more radical, outspoken form of it, because now is when we need it. People were more extreme 100 years ago, but they didn't need to be radical because guess what? They were living in a world where they were happy with it. They weren't being replaced, they weren't, and the rest of it. And they weren't having terrorism happening on their streets, they were not having grooming gangs, and all the rest of it. So they didn't need to complain about it. But now, we need the radical right. Saying we're going to stop illegal migration, saying we're going to deport the foreign criminals, saying we're going to deport the MI5 terrorist watch list isn't good enough, because these attacks will still happen. In Germany, I didn't mention actually, don't think he had a criminal record, and he was not on any lists for Islamist terrorism or just terrorism in general. He was not reported as a threat. In fact, somebody tried to report him after seeing a string of posts he had made on X. I don't know where he messaged, but it was something to do with the German government and their protection agencies, and he didn't really get a reply, and they did nothing about it. And now all of a sudden, because of that, because of their uninvolvement and refusing to agree, oh yeah, he looks like a threat. Nope. Now 5 people are dead, hundreds of people are in hospital right now, injured, clinging on to their lives. And that'll be many families. I mean, think about 200 people. That's about, 1,000, over 1,000 families mourning the deaths and injuries of loved ones on Christmas Day. All because of mass immigration. All because of it. It could have been all avoided. I mean, what really is that? I mean, to even accept that is a possibility, you need to have some major benefits for mass immigration. Okay, let's see. Economic benefits. GDP per capita's not went down. It's not went up. It's not went up correspondingly with total GDP. People's lives are worse. There's a cost of living crisis, so it didn't help the economy. Did it enrich our culture? Not really. If you think about, melting all these people, do this gummy bear analogy. I used to do paint. I'll do the paint analogy because it's my own. You mix every single color of paint. What happens? You get like a weird gray. There's nothing. That's what happens when you mix cultures. There's no more cultures left. So we didn't get an enriched culture. What else is there? Nothing. There's nothing else. There's no real benefits. So therefore, there's nothing you can argue. All you have to say is yes. The politicians have to say yes. I enacted a set of policies that have led to numerous deaths and lives ruined and families torn apart. That's all they can say. It's all they can say, and it's why when the radical right does take power, which is us, we are the radical right. I'm not extreme, but I'm radical. Because look at the world we live in. In Britain, totally, we're about 78% of the population. It needs a radical course of action to fix that, because it is a problem that must be fixed. So we need the radical right, and once we win, once the foreign criminals are deported, and what terrorist watch lists are deported, well, once those prisons have got some free space in them, 12,000 foreign criminals, we're going to fill up that other 12,000 or however many we need with the politicians who basically drove this whole experiment of mass immigration and inflicted it upon our country, which is an attack on our people. It basically is. It's no different from any other ethnic cleansing that we've seen in history. The only difference is it's not so violent. But it still has been at times because terrorist incidents like these, so it still is violent to an extent. Either way we get replaced, it just isn't through the means of sending them to camps or from people knocking on their door and killing families. But either way, in the end, it is ultimately the same thing, the same result. So yes, we're going to fill these prisons up with jails, because especially after attacks like these, if you're not becoming part of the radical right, and not only that, even if you're becoming indifferent, I still hold negative feelings towards you, but if you're still a left-wing individual and you're still a pro-open borders, if you saw the Manchester bombing and went, yeah, we'll keep the borders open. If you saw the Southport attack and went, yeah, we'll keep the borders open. If you saw that guy who got stabbed, I don't know if he died, he got stabbed outside the army barracks somewhere recently this year, and went, yeah, we'll keep the borders open. Or if you saw this attack yesterday in Germany, went, yeah, we'll keep the borders open. The UK is now on a substantial terror threat, which means an attack is likely to happen. Likely to happen. People, we don't know who, but people the next year will spend their last day on this planet, their last day, because some people just didn't want to close the damn border, because some people were afraid of being called names. So yeah, we do need the radical right, and yes, we need to throw people in jail. They need jail. They got blood on their hands. It might not be directly, but it was a choice, and they had no good reason. If you said, I had to save the world, I had to save lives, I had to, fix all these problems, and I did, and a few people died, fine. But no, we experienced zero benefits. They have no justification. All that happened is a few people died as a result of their actions. So yes, they have blood in their hands, and they have nothing to justify it or cover up. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening. It's a very long video. I had to do it quite off the cuff as well, because I didn't have much time, basically. But yeah, thanks for watching.